Welcome to Counterpunch, another episode of Counterpunch with Trevor Loudon. Please like the show, share the show, and subscribe on Epoch TV. You'll hear information here you won't get elsewhere. Well, I'm going to take a little break from Ukraine today. Not that I'm not deeply concerned about that country, but I've had an idea and I want to share it with you and I want to get some feedback. The problem in every Western country now is that we're all deeply infiltrated by foreign agents. I'm talking agents of China, of Russia, of Iran, some of the Muslim countries, Turkey in some instances. Every country in the Western world is deeply penetrated by foreign agents. Now, this has been going on since time immemorial, but it really amped up after the communist era because the communists knew they could never win on their merits. They knew they had to infiltrate. I had a friend who trained in Moscow in the 80s. At one of the big training schools there, Lenin's Institute for Higher Learning, 3,500 students. And he said you could never overstate the importance that the communists placed on having people in positions of influence, people in power in other countries, secret agents working for them. They claimed the Allied victory in World War II was because of the number of communists they had inside the Nazi machine. They are experts at this. At the same time in New Zealand, a friend of mine talked to a member of our security intelligence services. We'd just elected a left-wing Labour government at the time. And this intelligence officer said to my friend, he said, look, the people we used to watch are now our bosses. Meaning that they had been surveilling the communists and now the communists were running the government. And this is a big problem with public intelligence services, the big problem of political intelligence services. When you have a communist government in power, when radicals get into the government, the intelligence services become neutralized. We see this in America today. For many years, the FBI used to focus on communists within America. They had the Communist Party deeply infiltrated. I remember an FBI guy telling me that the Northern California Communist Party was led by 5 people. 3 of them were FBI informants. But now the communists have effectively taken over the FBI. The left has taken over the CIA. The people who were supposed to be watching out for us, guarding us against the communists and the radicals and the Islamic terrorists, etc., are now penetrated. Deeply penetrated. We saw this in the Trump administration, the so-called deep state. Well, please read Diana West's great book, The Red Thread. The deep state goes back to Russia. Most of the actors in the deep state, the people attacking Trump, had Russian or communist connections. We're talking the Comey of the FBI admitted his past communism. Brennan, the head of the CIA, voted for the Communist Party leader in America as a student. He admitted this and the CIA still let him in, which just shows how absolutely lax the security of those organizations is. So the penetration is deep. We have thousands of Chinese agents in America right now. Some say about 25,000.
Even as I stand here talking with you today, the FBI has about 1,000 investigations involving China's attempted theft of U.S.-based technology in all 56 of our field offices and spanning just about every industry and sector.
But then there are thousands of Chinese students, and at least 10% of those are working for Chinese intelligence services. But they're allowed to walk through the laboratories, they're allowed to work in secret installations and universities doing high-tech research, no problem. We have Iranian agents working through groups like NIAC, the National Iranian Action Committee, who are openly funding American congressmen. We have groups like the Council for a Livable World, which was set up by a known Soviet agent, Leo Szilard, to recruit American politicians who had worked to gut the US military. They gave us Biden, they gave us Obama, they gave us Dianne Feinstein, they gave us over 40 of the current Democrat senators serving in the Senate right now. They've elected over 200 in total since they started. They've elected over 250 congressmen. Speaking of Dianne Feinstein, That woman, who has served as the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, has been working with Russian communists since the 1950s and Chinese communists since the 1980s. She brought a delegation of Soviet journalists to Stanford University in the 50s. You know, who does that? Then she was actively involved, moved in communist circles for several years. When she was mayor of San Francisco, she promoted Soviet causes. She then started promoting Chinese causes. She became a great friend of several Chinese leaders and helped China to get into the World Trade Organization, which enabled them to build the huge economy they have today and the huge military they have today. All that time, she had a Chinese agent. She says her driver. He wasn't her driver, he was her office manager. I have seen that he was getting Defense Department documents across his desk. He was her senior staff member for many years, a fully recruited Chinese agent. So we've got a very deep penetration in the United States. You have Russian operatives working here, Russian mafia operatives working in this country. You have thousands of Chinese agents, Iranian agents, Cuban agents are crawling all over Tampa, trying to get into MacDill Air Force Base and Central Command there, and plus several other places. You've got Turkish agents working through certain mosques in the northeast, working among the Native American populations of Montana. You know, Barack Obama had a deep background with pro-Soviet communists. Bill Clinton went to the Soviet Union as a young man and then stayed in the house of a leader of the Czech Communist Party on his way back to Oxford University. Hillary Clinton gave 40% of America's uranium to Russia and worked for a communist law firm straight out of college. This is a big problem, and nobody does anything about it. And we need to understand this. You know, people say, well, there's going to be background checks in Congress. There's going to be background checks in the US Senate. They'll catch these people. No, there are not. There are no background checks in the Senate or the Congress at all. There are no background checks of any value in the White House these days. Bill Clinton got rid of those. Islamic terrorists, communists, Cuban agents, Chinese agents, Iranian agents have very little problem penetrating America's institutions or co-opting Americans' politicians, businessmen, academics, even religious leaders. America's problems stem largely from deep penetration by hostile foreign actors, and there's very little being done about it because there's no background checks, and most of the main intelligence services have been deeply compromised themselves. So what do you do about this? What does any Western country do about this problem? Because, you know, we have laws protecting people's freedom of speech. We are very lax in allowing our business members to consort with Iranians or representatives of hostile foreign powers. We allow Chinese nationals to enter the country to work in laboratories and do deals with our politicians and take our politicians on holidays and take our journalists to junkets in China. All this is, at least on the appearance, legal. But we do have a Foreign Agent Registration Act, the FARA Act, which can catch these people, but nobody's been applying this for years. So we're penetrated to the degree that nobody dares to call it out any longer, and we are seeing the impacts of it. You know, this is why we have open borders. This is why we have a nuclear deal with Iran coming up to give the Iranians a nuclear weapon. This is why China is running rampant through our financial institutions and is stealing our technology and buying our politicians, and nobody does anything. So what do? So this is what I would do if I was Trump, or if I was whoever assumes the US president who has a conservative and patriotic bent. And this same principles could apply in Britain or France or New Zealand or Australia. If you have a patriotic leader, this is what they could do to get rid of much of the foreign subversion and interference. I would declare an amnesty. First of all, I would set up a new agency, and I would set it up with maybe 1,000 intelligence officers. And these would be guys and men and women who had left the service at least 10 years, who left at the very early days of the Obama administration, who were purged by Obama, or were not tainted by the Obama administration, because he brought heaps of bad people into the government. So these would have to be people who didn't have that taint. I would set up a new intelligence agency. It would be deeply compartmentalized so that if parts of it were compromised, the other parts would remain untouched. And it would be highly trusted officers from a wide range of intelligence services, military intelligence, DEA, CIA, FBI, the whole lot. It would be a new intelligence service. And it would be all about ferreting out foreign agents operating in this country. So we get this up and running. We get it functioning. We get it together. Then the president would declare a 3-month amnesty. An amnesty for every foreign agent working in the country, every Iranian agent, every Chinese agent, every North Korean agent, every agent that wasn't covered by diplomatic immunity. And by the way, I'd massively reduce diplomatic immunity. But so you got all these people out there who are working with American businessmen, working with American politicians. I declare a 3-month amnesty. You have 3 months to either leave the country or turn yourself into this new intelligence agency and spill your guts. Tell us everything you know, everybody you have co-opted, every traitor that you know of, every network that you're aware of, everything you know. If you do that, you will not be prosecuted. If you're a foreigner, you can stay in the country. You'll be in a witness protection program or something similar. If you're a natural American, you can do the same thing. You can come forward and say, look, I did some corrupt deals with the Chinese government. I sold them military technology. I worked with this network. I know this person is co-opted as well. I'm working with the Iranians. They blackmailed me. I was in a hotel. There was a prostitute next to me. They took photographs. They threatened to tell my wife if I didn't cooperate. I went to China and they told me that if I didn't work with them, they had ways of blackmailing me. There's a number of ways people can be compromised. Some people do it willingly. Some people are drawn into the net. So you have an amnesty for 3 months. Every foreign agent can come forward. They can confess. They can cough up their networks. If necessary, as part of the deal, they have to testify in open court against others. They have to tell their story if necessary. Some of them, it may not be appropriate, but the American public needs to know the extent of the treason. If at the end of 3 months, you don't come forward, we're coming after you. And if you're caught, you will suffer the maximum penalty of the law. If you're not covered by diplomatic immunity, you're an American citizen and you're convicted, you'll go to Leavenworth for 35 years. You will never see daylight again. This would throw every foreign intelligence network in the country, every spy network, every corrupt Russian mafia operation, the whole lot into complete chaos. You'd see many of them just pack up and leave, but you'd also see a whole bunch of people come in because they wouldn't know who's taken the deal. They wouldn't know who has betrayed them. They wouldn't know that the businessman they go and talk to, that they've been talking to for the last 5 years, is now wearing a wire, is now being listened to by this new intelligence agency. They would know who to trust. It would throw every foreign network into complete confusion. Many of them would leave the country. Many of them would tough it out, but they would risk arrest. It would shut down their operations. The ones who came forward would be used to tell the American people about the extent of these networks and how much they've corrupted our politics and our business and our academia, because the public needs to know. This is the overriding importance of this. A lot of people get drawn into these networks unknowingly. They do a deal with a Chinese businessman. They get deeper and deeper. They eventually get compromised. They don't start out with that intention, but they get compromised. Or they get blackmailed, or their families are threatened, or whatever. Some of these people want to come forward. They want to break out of the cycle. And I sympathize with those people. And if they come forward and spill their guts, maybe they can start a new life. But the ones who don't, the ones who are hardcore and keep their treason to themselves and try and carry it on, if they're caught, they will go to jail for a very long time. We don't have to arrest thousands of people and jail thousands of people. Just a few hundred would probably be more than enough to deter all of the rest and to encourage others to come forward and spill the beans on their networks. This is how they took the mafia down in New York. In the old days, the mafia low guys would get arrested. They get a 3-year jail sentence. The mafia would look after their family. The guys would shut their mouths, come out of jail, and go back to work. They started giving them 30-year jail sentences for heroin. These guys were thinking, I'm not going to do 30 years. They're not going to keep looking after my family for 30 years. I'm 43 years old. I'm not going to live the best years of my life in jail. I'm going to take witness protection. I'm going to spill the beans on the networks. And that started happening with the low guys, and that went right up the chain till the mafia families of New York were heavily, heavily damaged. Not gone, but heavily damaged. We need to apply the same principle to the foreign intelligence networks that are plaguing this country. We get rid of those networks, folks, we will have a different nation. Most of us have no idea the damage they are doing in this country. Everything from running the drug trade, to car theft rings, to industrial espionage, to co-opting politicians, to influencing legislation, all of it is being influenced by foreign actors right now. So I hope you like the idea. I hope the idea spreads. I hope you will spread the idea. Because if we don't do this, if we don't clean out the foreign networks, we are doomed eventually. So please, give me some comments. Give me some feedback. Tell me where I'm wrong on this. Tell me how this could be refined. Tell me how you could get this in front of politicians or people who might make a difference. Please help with this. I think this could help America. It could help Canada. It could help Britain. It could help Australia and France and South Africa and India and Taiwan and Japan and every other country that's suffering from this problem, and every country in the world outside the communist bloc is suffering from this problem. So thanks for watching. I hope you found this interesting and stimulating. We'll get back to Ukraine in the next episode. So thanks again for watching. Keep fighting for liberty. God bless America, and God bless everybody who loves liberty on this planet, and God bless the brave people of Ukraine. Thank you.